My wife said, "You're not fun anymore. I want a trial separation." I said, "Done." Then I froze our joint accounts and removed her from the health plan. 3 days later, her new life crashed down in panic. I, 32M, thought I was living a good life until 3 weeks ago when my wife dropped a bomb that shattered everything I believed about our marriage. It was a Tuesday evening. I had just gotten home from my accounting job, loosened my tie, and was looking forward to our usual dinner routine when she walked into the kitchen with that look. You know the one, the expression that says everything is about to change and there's nothing you can do about it. She told me I wasn't fun anymore, that our marriage had become stale and predictable, that she needed space to figure out who she was outside of being my wife. The words came out in a rehearsed speech that she'd clearly been practicing, and every syllable felt like a knife twisting in my chest. When she mentioned wanting a trial separation, I felt something inside me snap. Not in an explosive way, but more like a rubber band that had been stretched too far, finally giving up. I looked at her standing there in our kitchen, surrounded by the life we'd built together over 8 years of marriage, and realized she'd already checked out mentally weeks ago. I agreed to the separation without hesitation. My response clearly caught her off guard. She'd probably expected tears, arguments, or desperate pleas. Instead, I calmly asked when she wanted to move out. She said she'd already found a place and would be gone by the weekend. That's when I knew this wasn't some spontaneous decision born from marital frustration. This was calculated, planned. She'd been living a double life while I remained completely oblivious. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I had important business to handle. First stop was our bank. We had 3 joint accounts, checking, savings, and a money market account that held our emergency fund. I walked into the branch and explained my situation to the manager. Since both our names were on the accounts, I had every legal right to freeze them pending the separation. I filled out the paperwork and watched as our financial life together became officially complicated. Next, I called our health insurance provider. My wife was covered under my company's plan as my dependent. I informed them that we were separating and requested her immediate removal from coverage. The representative was professional and explained the process, confirming that her coverage would end at midnight. By noon, I had systematically dismantled the financial infrastructure of our marriage. It felt clinical and necessary, like amputating a diseased limb to save the body. I spent the rest of the day boxing up her belongings, not out of spite, but because I needed to keep my hands busy to stop my mind from racing. Every photo, every piece of clothing, every small item that belonged to her got carefully packed away. She came home that evening to find her life neatly organized in cardboard boxes by the front door. When she saw the boxes, she asked what I was doing. I explained that I was helping her move out since she seemed eager to start her new life. The color drained from her face as the reality of separation hit her, but she maintained her composure. Friday came and went. She loaded her car with the boxes and left without ceremony. No tearful goodbye, no last-minute reconciliation attempt. She hugged me briefly and said she hoped we could remain friends. I nodded and watched her drive away. The house felt enormous and suffocating at the same time. Monday morning brought the first crack in her newfound freedom. She called me asking why her debit card wasn't working. I calmly explained that I'd frozen our joint accounts as a protective measure during our separation. She could access her personal account, but our shared finances were on hold until we figured out how to divide everything properly. Her voice grew sharp as she realized the implications. She demanded I unfreeze the accounts immediately, claiming I was being unreasonable and vindictive. I reminded her that she wanted independence and space, and this was simply me respecting her wishes by protecting both our interests during this transition. Tuesday brought another call, this time about health insurance. She tried to fill a prescription and discovered she was no longer covered. Again, I explained my reasoning calmly. She was building a new life separate from mine, which naturally meant separate insurance coverage. She could apply for coverage through the marketplace or find a job with benefits. Her tone shifted from demanding to panicked. She started talking about expensive medications she needed and upcoming doctor appointments. I listened with the same detached sympathy I might show a stranger describing their problems. Wednesday evening, everything came crashing down. She appeared at my door looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her clothes were wrinkled, her hair unwashed, and her eyes red from crying. She asked if we could talk. I invited her in and made coffee while she composed herself. Then the whole story came tumbling out. She'd been having an emotional affair with a coworker for 3 months. Nothing physical, she insisted, but they'd grown close through late-night conversations about their respective marriage problems. He'd convinced her that she deserved better, that she was too vibrant and interesting to be stuck in a boring suburban marriage with someone like me. The separation was supposed to be her trial run at freedom. She'd sublet a studio apartment near downtown, planning to explore this new relationship and rediscover herself. The coworker had painted pictures of exciting dates, weekend trips, and a life full of spontaneity and adventure. Reality hit hard and fast. Her first day of freedom involved crying alone in an overpriced apartment with no furniture and no food in the refrigerator. The coworker, suddenly faced with the reality of her actual availability, started backpedaling. Their lunch date got canceled. His texts became shorter and less frequent. When she suggested meeting for drinks, he claimed his wife was getting suspicious and they needed to cool things off. By Wednesday, her dream of an exciting new life had evaporated entirely. The coworker was avoiding her at work. Her credit cards were maxed out from setting up the apartment, and she'd discovered that starting over at 30 was significantly more expensive and lonely than her fantasies had suggested. She broke down completely as she told me about trying to buy groceries with a declined card, about sitting in a pharmacy unable to afford her anxiety medication, about realizing that the life we'd built together wasn't boring. It was stable, secure, and something she'd taken for granted. I listened to her confession without interruption, sipping my coffee and watching this woman I'd loved for 8 years completely fall apart in my living room. When she finished talking, she looked at me with desperate hope and asked if we could try again. She promised the coworker meant nothing, that she'd been stupid and impulsive, that she appreciated our life together now more than ever. I set down my coffee cup and studied her face. 3 days earlier, she'd been confident and determined to explore her options. Now she sat broken and begging on my couch because her backup plan had failed. I told her I'd think about it, that this conversation was a lot to process and I needed time to consider what she'd shared with me. She nodded frantically and asked if she could stay the night since her apartment lease wasn't up yet, and she'd already paid for the month. I agreed, but insisted she sleep in the guest room. We weren't married roommates trying to work things out. We were separated spouses having a conversation about possibility. That night, I lay awake thinking about the past 8 years. We'd met in college and built what I thought was a solid partnership. We'd bought this house together, adopted our dog, talked about starting a family. I'd been planning to surprise her with a weekend trip to Napa for our anniversary next month. All while she was having late-night emotional conversations with another man about how unfulfilling her marriage was. The betrayal wasn't just the emotional affair. It was the months of deception, the calculated planning of our separation, the way she'd let me believe we were happy while secretly plotting her exit strategy. Thursday morning, she made breakfast and asked about my decision. I told her I needed more time. She accepted this with resignation and started getting ready for work. That evening, she returned with takeout from our favorite Thai restaurant and a bottle of wine. She'd also stopped by the store and bought flowers for the kitchen table. It felt like she was trying to recreate the domestic comfort she'd walked away from just days earlier. Over dinner, she talked about work, asked about my projects, and carefully avoided mentioning her coworker or the apartment. She was performing the role of the loving wife, trying to slip back into our routine as if nothing had happened. After dinner, she suggested we watch a movie together. We ended up on the couch with her head on my shoulder, exactly like hundreds of other evenings we'd spent in this same position. It felt familiar and comfortable and completely hollow. During the movie, she started talking about how much she'd missed this, our quiet evenings, our inside jokes, even our boring Tuesday night routine. She said she'd realized that excitement wasn't more important than partnership, that adventure meant nothing without someone to share it with. I made non-committal sounds and let her talk. She was saying everything I would have wanted to hear a week ago, but now her words felt like manipulation rather than genuine insight. Friday morning brought clarity. I woke up early and made a decision. When she came downstairs for coffee, I told her I appreciated her honesty about what had happened, but I didn't think we could rebuild our marriage. She immediately started crying and asking why. I explained that my trust in her had been completely shattered, not just because of the emotional affair, but because of the deception that surrounded it. She'd spent months lying to me about her feelings, her plans, and her commitment to our marriage. The separation wasn't an impulsive mistake. It was the culmination of a long period of betrayal. She'd only come back because her alternative plans had failed, not because she'd genuinely recommitted to our relationship. She begged me to reconsider, promising counseling, complete transparency, whatever it would take to rebuild trust. But I'd already made up my mind. I told her she could stay in the guest room until she figured out her living situation, but our marriage was over. I'd be contacting a divorce attorney on Monday to begin the process of legally ending what she'd already emotionally terminated months ago. The weekend was miserable. She alternated between anger and desperation, sometimes blaming me for being too quick to give up on our marriage, other times pleading for another chance. I remained calm and detached, helping her make practical plans for her immediate future while refusing to engage with her emotional appeals. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since that conversation, and the divorce process is moving forward. She moved back to her studio apartment, but kept asking if we could have dinner together to talk things through. I declined each invitation. The coworker situation imploded completely. Apparently, his wife found out about their emotional affair and gave him an ultimatum. He chose his marriage and asked for a transfer to a different department. My soon-to-be ex-wife is now dealing with the awkwardness of seeing him at work while he actively avoids her. She's also discovered that her new independent lifestyle is significantly more expensive than she'd anticipated. Without access to our joint accounts and health insurance, she's had to take on credit card debt to cover basic expenses. She asked if I'd consider helping her financially just until the divorce is finalized, but I declined. She made her choice to leave our shared life. The financial consequences were part of that decision. Her friends have been reaching out to me, trying to play peacemaker. They claim she's learned her lesson and deserves forgiveness. I've been polite, but clear that the marriage is over. Some of them seem to think I'm being too harsh, but they don't understand the months of deception that preceded her asking for separation. Update 2. A month has passed, and things have taken an interesting turn. My wife hired a lawyer who's trying to argue that I acted maliciously by freezing our accounts and removing her from health insurance. They're claiming financial abuse and trying to get a judge to order me to restore her access to our joint funds immediately. My attorney laughed when she heard this. Apparently, protecting joint assets during separation proceedings is not only legal but recommended. The health insurance removal was also within my rights as the primary policyholder. Her lawyer is grasping at straws. Meanwhile, her dream coworker has been fired. His wife apparently contacted their HR department about his inappropriate workplace relationships, leading to an investigation that revealed several instances of him crossing professional boundaries with female colleagues. My wife was just his most recent target. She called me crying about this development, claiming it proved that he'd manipulated her and that she was as much a victim as I was. I listened politely and then reminded her that she'd made her own choices every step of the way. No one forced her to have those conversations, plan her exit strategy, or ask for separation. The divorce mediation is scheduled for next month. She's still holding out hope that we can reconcile, but I've moved on completely. I've actually started dating someone new, a colleague from work who knows my situation and appreciates my honesty about the process I'm going through. Update 3. The divorce was finalized last week. After months of legal wrangling, we split our assets down the middle, with me keeping the house since I could afford the mortgage payments solo, and she clearly preferred apartment living anyway. In the final mediation session, she made one last attempt at reconciliation, asking if we could try couples counseling before signing the papers. I declined politely but firmly. The trust was gone, and I'd already started building a new life without her. Her financial situation has stabilized somewhat. She got a promotion at work partly because her former co-worker's firing created an opening in management. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. She's dating someone new now, a guy she met through a divorce support group. Apparently, he's going through his own separation and they're bonding over their shared experience of marital failure. I genuinely hope it works out better for both of them. As for me, the relationship with my colleague has developed into something serious. She's everything my ex-wife accused me of not being. We take weekend trips, try new restaurants, and have adventures together. But we also enjoy quiet evenings at home, and she appreciates the stability and security I bring to the relationship. Looking back, I realized my ex-wife was right about one thing. I had become predictable and maybe a little boring. But that wasn't a character flaw to be fixed through separation and affairs. It was the natural evolution of a man who was content with his life and committed to his marriage. She mistook my contentment for complacency and my commitment for lack of imagination. When she asked for excitement and spontaneity, she was really asking me to be someone I wasn't. The tragedy is that instead of communicating this need clearly, she sought fulfillment elsewhere and destroyed what we'd built together. The 3 days she spent panicking about her crashed new life taught her what I'd known all along. That stability isn't the opposite of happiness. It's the foundation that makes happiness possible. By the time she learned this lesson, I'd already moved on to someone who understood its value from the beginning. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people experience the full consequences of their choices while you build something better for yourself. She got the separation she wanted, the independence she craved, and the freedom to explore other options. I got the clarity I needed to realize I deserved a partner who wouldn't mistake my love for granted. 3 months later, I'm happier than I've been in years. She's starting over with someone new, hopefully having learned something about the difference between excitement and fulfillment. We're both getting exactly what we asked for, which turned out to be exactly what we needed, just not together.